Picture yourself as the architect of the globe's most formidable empire. Your defense spending dwarfs every rival for 3 decades. Your generals have circled a specific coordinate on the map, labeling it the ultimate strategic frontier. Then you open your eyes one morning to a chilling reality. You lack the hulls to reach those waters, the docks to anchor there, and the alliances to sustain a presence. For 30 years, you've been playing a hand of high-stakes poker with nothing but a pair of twos, and someone just forced you to show your cards on the world stage. Welcome to the secret history of currencies, where we trace the invisible lines of power that define our era. Canada just inked a historic pact with Greenland, a tour. In a single stroke, Ottawa didn't just outpace Washington, it performed a public dissection of American influence. Without a hint of hesitation, they showed the world exactly where the heart of the superpower has stopped beating. Mark Carney stood a nuke, flanked by the leaders of Denmark and Greenland. It was a trio that signaled the end of an era. Every word of their declaration was a calculated surgical strike against the very problems the previous American administration tried to solve with bluster and buyout offers. This partnership is built on 5 pillars, each a sharp reminder of a vulnerability the US ignored. First, they've launched a critical minerals alliance. Canada and Greenland are merging their strengths to create a powerhouse for rare earth processing. Canada provides the industrial backbone they've spent 2 years perfecting in secret. Greenland provides the raw earth, some of the largest untapped deposits in existence. Denmark provides the capital and a gateway to the European market. Importantly, the output is already promised to Europe, Japan, and South Korea, bypassing China entirely. Understand the gravity here, the monopoly Washington wanted to break by buying Greenland is being dismantled through a handshake with Canada. Same minerals, same goal, but through cooperation rather than coercion. The second pillar is the physical railroad of the North deep-water shipping infrastructure. They are expanding ports at Nuuk and Ilulissat on the Greenlandic side, while simultaneously building massive facilities at Churchill, Iqaluit and Pond Inlet in Canada. These are aren't just docks, they are the toll booths for the trade routes that will emerge as the polar ice vanishes. Third, they are creating a unified defense and surveillance net. This is just a local patrol. It's an Arctic architecture that links Canada and Denmark with the Nordic heavyweights, Norway, Finland, and Sweden. It's a shield that fits perfectly within NATO, but crucially does not require a single maritime ship to function. Fourth is the steel. Canada is commissioning an accelerated fleet of 8 Arctic vessels, including heavy icebreakers and patrol ships, too. While Denmark adds more to the tally within 5 years, this combined force will exceed 15 specialized ships.
Finally, they are establishing joint research and indigenous frameworks. By investing in the people and the environment of the North, Canada and Greenland are positioning themselves as the only legitimate guardians of the Arctic. They aren't just talking about the region, they are living in it. As the Greenlandic premier put it, Greenland is not for sale, we have simply chosen our partner. The message at the secret history of currencies is clear: relationships produce results that transactions never will. When the news hit, 3 distinct alarms went off in the halls of D.C. First, an emergency National Security Council meeting was called. It wasn't to plan a counterattack, it was to perform a capability gap assessment. For the first time, official documents admitted that the U.S. might be blind in the North. Second, the response from the White House was eerily quiet. Usually there is fire and fury, but this time there was only a brief, worried statement. Silence from a loud leader is the ultimate tell of fear. Third, the Pentagon was ordered to fast-track a classified audit of Arctic readiness. When the commander-in-chief asks if you're ready on an emergency basis, he already suspects the answer is no. Most analysts are focusing on the minerals or the ships, but the real story is the contrast. When Canada showed what true Arctic capability looks like, the concrete being poured, the ships being welded, the mines being opened, it held up a mirror to the United States, and the reflection was hollow. Let's look at the numbers, because this is where the panic truly resides. Icebreakers are the entry fee for the Arctic. Without them, you cannot move fuel, you cannot protect trade, and you cannot hold territory. Russia has over 40 icebreakers, including nuclear monsters, that can crush through the thickest ice year-round. China, a country with zero Arctic coastline, has 2 modern vessels. And a nuclear one on the way. Canada is on track for 15, the United States. It has 2. One is the Polar Star, a 50-year-old ship that spends more time in repair than in the ice. The other is a medium-duty vessel with limited reach, the American. Replacement program is years behind and billions over budget. It is a staggering irony. The nation that outspends the next 10 countries combined on defense cannot keep pace with a nation that has no geographic right to be in the Arctic. Then there are the ports. Russia has a dozen deep-water hubs like Murmansk and Sabetta. Canada is developing 5. The United States has 0.
The nearest American facilities are in southern Alaska, thousands of miles away from the action. The most powerful Navy in history has 11 aircraft carriers, but not a single place to park them in the high north. Even the crown jewel of American Arctic presence, Pitch Fix Space Base in Greenland, is under threat. It relies on a surveillance network and supply chain that runs through Canada. That cooperation isn't automatic. The base becomes an island impressive on a map, but functionally blind. This brings us to the rare earth irony. The US nearly broke its alliances trying to buy Greenland to secure these minerals. Rare earths are in every missile, every EV and every smartphone. China controls 90% of the process in Canada. It just solved us by building the processing plants. The US only talked about America, doesn't have a strategy. It has a wish list. Canada had the playbook and actually ran the plays. I've seen the briefing notes circulating in the Pentagon. They are a confession. The US can currently sustain a presence in the high north for only 30 days, not 30 days of war. 30 days of just being there. Icebreaking capacity is at 0% of what is required. Deep water access is at 0%. Meanwhile, the ice is melting faster than any model predicted. The Northern Sea Route moved nearly 38 million tons last year. By 2030, it will be a major commercial highway. By 2040, the Arctic could handle 10% of all global trade, and the US will be watching from the sidelines because UN built a port with an executive order. You built it with decades of concrete and commitment. Warren Buffett recently addressed this during a session at Berkshire Hathaway. He compared the Arctic to the railroads in 2009. He bought Burlington Northern because he knew that whoever owns the tracks owns the trade in the Arctic. The tracks are icebreakers and ports. Canada is building the infrastructure, Buffett remarked. Hey, the United States is writing reports. I know which one produces a return. Buffett isn't talking politics, he's talking about moats. Physical infrastructure is a moat that a competitor cannot bridge with a single checkbook. You can't buy a 20-year head start. This is why Berkshire has been quietly moving billions into Canadian energy, Nordic shipping and rare earth supply chains. The smart money isn't following the speeches, it's following the steam shovels.
Buffett's most famous line applies here: only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. The melting ice is that receding tide, and it's revealing that the superpower is standing in the Arctic without a stitch of clothing. This reshuffle changes everything. Russia has been pouring concrete while America published white papers. China has been claiming near Arctic status while America debated budgets, but Canada's move is the most disruptive because it creates a Western alternative that doesn't need Washington. For the first time since 1949, a major theater of NATO is being organized by someone other than the Americans. This isn't just about Greenland, it's about who actually has the keys to the top of the world. Where does this lead? One path is humility. The US accepts a junior role and joins the Canadian-led framework. Another path is escalation. DC tries to bully Ottawa through trade wars, fracturing the alliance and giving Moscow a massive opening. The third is a cold reset. The US concedes the Arctic for this decade and tries to leapfrog into the technologies of 2050. None of these options are safe. The status of the unquestioned global leader is gone, lost to 30 years of neglect. The real question for the followers of the secret history of currencies is this: was this a masterstroke of Canadian vision or the first crack in a total Western collapse? If the alliance phrase over who owns the docks, the only winners are in Beijing and Moscow, the era of talking is over. The era of steel and ice has begun. If this deep dive into the shifting tectonics of global power gave you a new perspective, your engagement is what keeps this analysis sharp. Hit the like button, subscribe to The Secret History of Currencies, and join the conversation in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.